Hola, muy buenas, soy Gail de Amarose y hoy estaremos mirando Fluency Accelerator 7. So, empezamos. Okay, so starting with the grammar point, we are looking at prepositions for travel. So let's get started. So the first preposition we will be looking at is from, to, and by when we are talking specifically about travel. And the second preposition structure we will be looking at is arrive at and get to. So let's start with the first structure, which is from, to, and by. So the sentence that we're going to look at is, we drove from Dover to Paris by car. So we drove from Dover to Paris by car. The second example we have is, I traveled from Seville to Salamanca by coach. I traveled from Seville to Salamanca by coach. Number 3, I got the train from Northampton to Leicester. Okay, so I got the train from Northampton to Leicester. Okay, so when we're using arrive, normally we use it with a preposition at. So we arrived at, or we got to, which is exactly the same thing, but we're using got and the preposition to. So let's have a look at a few examples. So we arrived at the airport 2 hours before check-in. We got to the coach station an hour before departure. And number 3, I got to the train station at 4 p.m. Okay, so we're using arrived at the airport, got to the coach station, and got to the train station. Okay, so there are a few exceptions, so let's have a look at those. Okay, so the first one is I got home at 7 p.m. So we say I got home, not I got to my home. So you can simply say I got home at about 7 p.m. Or you can also use I got back at about 7 p.m. So both are correct and both are used when you are talking about coming back to your own house. Okay, let's practice and see how much we have learned here. So let's go with the first one. So he went Madrid, Cuenca, car. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to fill in the blanks in these sentences, and then we will correct them together. So you can pause now. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. So for number 1, we've got he went from Madrid to Cuenca by car. For number 2, we have she traveled from Newcastle to Manchester by taxi. And number 3 is they got the train from Jaén to Córdoba. Okay, so those are your answers. So now we are going on to phrasal verbs. So let's get started. So the first phrasal verb we're looking at is to look down on. So to look down on is to consider that person to be inferior or unimportant. So the Spanish equivalent would be mirar encima del hombro. Okay, so let's have a look at an example. His attitude stinks. He's always looking down on people. He seems to think he is superior. Okay, so I'm going to read that again. His attitude stinks. He's always looking down on people. He always seems to think, or he seems to think that he is superior. Okay, so that was your first phrasal verb. Let's go on to number 2, phrasal verb number 2. And the second phrasal verb is to look up to. So to look up to someone is to admire somebody. So admirar a alguien. And the example we have here is I have always looked up to him. He is an amazing role model for me. Okay, so I have always looked up to him. He is an amazing role model for me. Fantastic. Okay, number 3 is to look forward to. And to look forward to means to be excited for something. So ansiar a algo, okay, con ganas de algo. So I'm looking forward to Friday night. I'm going out with my friends. I am looking forward to Friday night. I'm going out with my friends. Fantastic. That was nice and quick, wasn't it? So let's go on to our expressions now. And the first expression we have is to run in the family. So to run in the family means to correr en la familia. So the examples we have are my brother is a great musician, so is my granddad. It runs in the family. Okay, my brother is a great musician, so is my granddad. It runs in the family. The second example we have is she has a strong personality like her mom. Strong women run in the family. So she has a strong personality like her mom. Strong women run in the family. Okay, so what about expression number 2? Expression number 2 means or is smooth sailing. So if something is smooth sailing, it is ir viento en popa. And I've never heard this expression before in Spanish, but it just means that something has gone without any obstacles or any problems, okay? Very smooth and very easy, okay? So let's have a look at some of the examples of how we can use this expression. The first one is the presentation was smooth sailing and I had no tech issues or technological issues, okay? The presentation was smooth sailing and I had no tech issues. The second example we have is he said his journey was smooth sailing and he got to the airport on time. He said his journey was smooth sailing and he got to the airport on time. Our last expression of this episode is to stand your ground. And stand your ground means to mantenerse firme. And the examples we have with this expression is to be strong and stand your ground, stick to the salary you want. So be strong, stand your ground and stick to the salary you want. The second example we have is to stand your ground and let them know you'll be going on strike. Stand your ground and let them know you'll be going on strike. Okay, so those were our expressions for this episode. And now we are going to talk about or look at our accent tip of the week. And the accent tip we're looking at is the silent B, okay? So how do we know when a B in a word is silent? We know that B is silent in a word when it comes after the letter M for mother, okay? So when you see M and then B at the end of a word or in the middle of the word, you know that the B is silent and we don't pronounce it. Let's have a look at some examples. So, how would we pronounce these words knowing that we got the M and we've got the B and therefore we know that the B is silent? So knowing that, how would you pronounce these words? You can pause now and then we will have a look at how we pronounce them when you press play. Okay, so let's have a look at the pronunciation. So the correct pronunciation is bomb, climb, comb, crumb, dumb, lamb, limb, numb, plum, thumb, and tomb. Okay, so I'll say those one more time. We have bomb, climb, comb, crumb, dumb, lamb, limb, numb, plum, thumb, and tomb. Well, I hope that has been very valuable for you. And nos veremos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.